Travel is more than just ticking off countries. It's about the people, the culture, the food, the moments. I'm Pippa Hudson, and on Wonder the World, I invite you to join me every week as we explore destinations both near and far, with the help of fellow adventurers who share their unique travel stories. Listen to my podcast wherever you get them.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7.
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thanks very much for joining us. You're on 702. My name is Thabo Shole-Mashao, and we're coming to you live from Africa's Travel Indaba, brought to you by Durban Tourism, the warmest place to be. Great to be with you. And as I said, we are at the Durban ICC, and where everyone else is getting ready for another jam-packed day, where everything tourism is here. From people who are just packing bags into planes to everything else in between, including those who are showcasing our country's beautiful colors and making it look attractive to people from outside to come and visit. Of course, Durban is always looking gorgeous with its majestic seas and with the Indian Ocean looking so beautiful. Outside our hotel, we were just remarking with the crew earlier on that, oh goodness me, no matter how many times you see it, the sea is just too magnanimous. It's gigantic and it's huge and it's beautiful. I wanted to find out from you, especially on the traveling things, do you travel a lot, and is it mainly business or is it pleasure? And your favorite travel destination in our country, what is it? I'd love to hear from you about that. I'm standing in for Clement. My name is Thabo. We're together till 12, so nothing has changed from 9 to 10 o'clock. It's an open line, and I would like to touch on a number of issues, including the questions that I've asked you. But yesterday, I don't know if you saw that disturbing story in the Sowetan about sugar daddies being responsible for the rise of HIV and AIDS. And you might have also seen that story from the academic Francois Venter from Wits University, who are saying that we are about to see a wave of new HIV infections, sickness and death, with children born infected in record numbers. And he continues to say that we will see our public hospitals further overwhelmed and hard-won victories against TB reversed. And he's attributing all of that to our government's response to the scourge of HIV and AIDS. And he's pointing directly to the Minister of Health, Mr. Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, and President Ramaphosa. He says, this time it's not denialism. It's ignoring the problem. Everyone else is pretending that HIV and AIDS has just disappeared. It doesn't exist. People are not taking caution, and the hospitals are not responding accordingly. And this article, I think, also speaks a little bit about PEPFAR, given that we know what's been happening in the US as far as our assistance and aid is concerned, that will have a dent on our health system as well. So the leadership is missing in action, according to this article. I don't know how to phrase this, and we were talking about it with a team and saying that the word scaring is a bit too much and a bit too heavy. Maybe we should ask, how cautious are you of HIV and AIDS now in 2025 than you were previously, let's say in 2004, 2005, and just in the early 2000s? Are you still, is it still at the forefront of your mind, front and center of your mind? Does it still occupy that space when you think about it? And how careful are people out there? I don't want to pass any moral judgment, because none of us are perfect, but it's something that we have to deal with. The issue of sugar daddies, as the Sowetan had said yesterday, is contributing deeply into the scourge of HIV and AIDS, because these are individuals, mainly males, who are flashing money to young ladies and somehow luring them to participate in sexual activities without using any protection, knowing that they will offer them money, and that is said to be contributing to the scourge of HIV and AIDS. Are we still so aware of it? Do we have our eyes very fixed on the mark? Or have we forgotten about it? It's a thing of the past. We don't care because these days it's just one pill and you are sorted. I want us to have that very difficult conversation, right? And also point at ourselves. Of course, government needs to do more, like I said. This piece of academic write-up does mention that the president is ignoring it and Dr. Motsoaledi is ignoring it. They will say no, of course. And it is to call at any time on 011-883-0702. But the truth is, it affects all of us on the ground. You in your own life, are you as cautious as you used to be? Or is it just, by the way, remember the ABC strategy of the government, abstain, be careful, and condomize? Is it still as prevalent as it used to be? Is it just a matter of awareness that's out there? Or does the medical strategy response also count for anything? Let's have a chat about it. Feel free to send your voice notes to 072-702-1702. Your voice notes and your text messages to that number. Alternatively, on socials, at Radio 702 on X. My handle is at I am free TSM, and of course you can also check us out on Facebook and on TikTok and various other social media platforms. It's good to be with you, and on the open line, as I always say, anything goes, right? Whatever is happening in your workspace, at home, at play, share with us. A lot of people complain that media doesn't cover these things. An open line is your platform to raise those issues so that we can speak about them that are happening where you stay. Then a little bit later on, after 10 o'clock, between 10 and 10:30, we will touch on the travel indaba, Africa's travel indaba that is taking place here in Durban, in KZN. And we'll speak to a number of role players. How is South Africa still a beautiful, attractive travel destination for a number of people outside the country? And internally, do we as South Africans promote this country as we ought to? I try my best every time I see someone who's not from South Africa or who looks like a tourist. Don't ask me how I notice. I try to make them feel at home, because every time I travel, it's outside the country, I want to get that same feeling as well of being warmly received by locals. Do you do that? Do you say hi? Do you offer to help them? And because they are bringing jobs with them. Every tourist that comes brings about a little bit of an increment in the circulation of the rent. So we tried to make it as comfortable as possible. So we'll touch on that between 10 and 10:30 here on the show, and I look forward to your responses at the time. Remember those controversial VIP protection unit, I think they were known as the N19, if I'm not mistaken, who were protecting Deputy President Paul Mashatile, how they were acquitted in the internal hearing of the South African Police Service, and how they got off scot-free, that they were not found guilty by that hearing. After the video surfaced of them beating up people brutally to a pulp as if they were in some WWE wrestling match. Well, internally, not guilty for them. They can do as they please, and to a large extent, it's encouraging other protection units to do the same, to go out and beat up people if they want to. I suppose the hearing does that, because how do you not find them guilty? How are they not held accountable? We'll speak to SAPU. SAPU was defending them in that hearing, and many of them used the South African Police Union representatives to represent them at the hearing. And SAPU, amongst others, invoked the fact that the videos were inadmissible, despite the court of law saying that they were. Well, at the hearing, SAPU said they were not admissible. And I'm just wondering, unions to a large extent play a very critical role in our society, protecting the interests of workers. But at times, unions can be a source of derision in a workplace. They can contribute towards the pollution of a work environment that can otherwise be good. We'll speak about that a little bit later on. Maybe you're a union member, union representative, and you just want to say that unions are not all that bad. But on this issue specifically, where do we go from here? I mean, how is it that they were not found guilty? These guys who were literally slamming people's faces on the floor. And we saw that. We all saw that. I mean, willy-nilly. What does it say about rule of law if those who are supposed to be custodians of rule of law are doing as they please? So maybe we'll have a chat about that as well a little bit later on. So please stay tuned for that as well. 11 o'clock, World of Work. Have you moved from one career to the other? And how seamless was it, or how difficult was it for you to move from one career, perhaps in the, I don't know, food and beverage industry, and then you went to the medical industry, and it is a bit of a stretch. We'll chat about that a little bit later on. And third-degree burns, goodness me. I've got one. I don't know if it's still visible. Yes, I'm looking at my arm as I'm talking to you. I do have one. It happened many years ago. It was from a racing car. One of those racing cars. And for whatever stupid reason, I decided to put my arm on that hot plate, and it fried me. We have a reconstructive surgeon who will tell us all about the burns, how do you deal with them, and to what extent can you still have a normal life thanks to medical advancement after third-degree burns. 011-883-0702. 011-883-0702. Waiting for your calls. Send your messages through to 072-702-1702, live to you from the Africa's Travel Indaba, brought to you by Durban Tourism, the warmest place to be.
702 is live from Africa's biggest tourism marketing event, Africa's Travel Indaba with Durban Tourism.
Indeed, that's where we come into live from. Welcome back. You're on 702. It's Thabo in for Clement at the Africa's Travel Indaba. Well, a couple of things I've asked you to opine on, and one of them is the scourge of HIV and AIDS that we seem to be putting on the sidelines of the mainstream health issues that we have been discussing. I wanted to find out from you on 072-702-1702. And we'll go straight to those voice notes in a short while. I'll also go to your calls on 011-883-0702. But first, your voice notes.
Morning. No, those people are protectors. They were doing what they are supposed to be doing. Imagine if the deputy president was invaded, or there were attempts, or he was... and then the guys managed to do whatever they did. You were still going to say, these people are useless. Why didn't they prevent things? So they were foreseeing something that was not right. So they did what they did, unfortunately.
Speak about that.
Hi, Thabo. It's Thabo here in Tshwane. With regard to this thing of HIV, AIDS and new infections, sugar daddies and all, I think really this thing of the government needs to do something is really outdated. We as South Africans, we need to take responsibility for our behavior. And whether it's the sugar daddies, whether it is the young girls for that matter, whether it is us as parents in our home, the kind of morals that we teach our children, it is our responsibility. We don't need to be babysat by the government. Thanks. Bye-bye.
No, definitely. I would agree with you. The government doesn't have to babysit us on those issues, but it does have it's got the responsibility to respond appropriately and have a strategy that deals with the spread of HIV and AIDS. I think that's where their responsibility starts, to have a strategy, implement that strategy, assess, evaluate that strategy, and revisit it if it doesn't work. Currently, I think we all know that, as people have opined and experts have already asserted, asserted, there is a problem that is on the way, and if we don't wake up to address it right now, we will be faced with serious consequences, because clinics will be flooded, hospitals will be flooded. Then it will be the government's responsibility to deal with those. Feel free to send those voice notes through. One last thing, there was a voice note that came through first about the VIP protection of the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, saying that what if they had attacked him? Yes, I'd call them incompetent if the Deputy President was attacked. You need to apply appropriate force. Those people were not a threat. They were kicked even when they were down already. It's all fun and games, to say that until it happens to you, until they stop you for nothing on the side of the road and they beat you up. And then that's only when it will all be sober to the fact that it's exploitation of power and influence on their side. They did not need to go that far and beat up those individuals like that. They were already subdued. They could have easily apprehended them and then taken them in for questioning or anything else. But they didn't do that. They were literally kicking their heads as they were down. I don't know if you saw the videos. Well, send your voice notes to 072-702-1702. Kamo, I see your call. I'll come to it. But voice note first, Peter.
Thabo, considering the withdrawal of PEPFAR and USAID funds, if you just look at government's response, they've been very blasé about it, saying that, we don't rely on it that much, it doesn't really matter, we will pick up the slack, and then done absolutely nothing to actually pick up the slack. The amount of work that the NGOs did, the amount of support they provided to the Department of Health was huge. I worked in one of these NGOs for some time, and I don't think that South Africa will be able to manage this HIV pandemic without the NGO assistance.
Yeah, definitely. And you can't just say that we will do something about it. You can't just say it's fine, PEPFAR and everything else can go away, we'll manage. Because the reality is on the ground. The caregivers on the ground, the clinics on the ground, people, NGOs. I mean, we know what happened in Gauteng. I shouldn't revisit that, where some of them were not paid. But that's a story for another day, I guess. But first, your calls on 011-883-0702. Gamo from Pretoria. Gamo, hi. Gamo?
Thank you, morning. Yes.
Morning. Now I can hear you. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, morning. One of the things that I've noticed predominantly, because I do travel a lot in my job, is that when you go to socials in the metros, specifically your Pretoria, your Joburg, your Cape Towns, your Durbans, like your metros, there's a trend that has blown out of control. And nobody wants to talk about this, but we speak about it in silos. A lot of ladies now, these are employed and unemployed ladies, career women and non-career women, they seem to be selling. We are in this transactional relationship era now, where you genuinely cannot just meet people at a nice event or a market or something and just engage with them. It always boils back to, what can you do for me that I can lay in your bed today or in the coming days? Yeah. And this is a serious problem that needs to be addressed. That young ladies are now selling themselves, or as they call it now, it's transactional relationships. And it's a serious problem.
Listen, come on, I hear you, right? And I would agree with you to an extent. My only addition to that, because you have two consenting adults, why isn't that even in those transactional relationships that we use protection? Because protection must apply, transactional or not, convenient or not. Protection must be taken into consideration. Kamo, you'd remember that there was a time where you and I, and I'm just using us as an example, not literally you and I, were really, really concerned about HIV and AIDS. When you met someone, you would be concerned about the tests, you'd be concerned about their status, you'd be concerned about their well-being, and to a large extent, where even people were accused of diagnosing people by just looking at them. There was that caution, sense of caution in the air, and it's missing right now. It's just, I don't know, it has evaporated into oblivion right now.
I think I think the ARV thing has also played a part in this. People are just not as scared of HIV anymore because of the medication and the strides in the pharmaceutical industry. In the 90s, and you're quite correct, in the 90s and the early 2000s, people were extremely scared of HIV/AIDS. But because of the medication now, and this thing of PrEP, what people do is they sleep with people and they say they'll take PrEP, but they are misusing this drug. And that is also leading to these infections because they think this is some wonder drug and you can't get infected. So the pharmaceutical industries also need to educate people on these things that they call PrEP, because they go to these socials, they meet people and they think, no, I'll just pop some PrEP. But it's not a solution. People need to condomize. People need to stick with one partner. People need to have social morality that I shouldn't be involved in transactional relationships. I should be involved in relationships that are building towards something, ultimately to a family setting where there's stability.
And you and I, Kamu, don't have power over that, right, on people's morality. And you and I cannot advocate for that because that is really subjective, right? But I think where you and I can come in is raising the issue of the fact that even if it's transactional, right, even if it's convenient, because transactional relationships are not any new phenomenon at all. They've always been there from time immemorial. So the transactional part of it is not the problem. It's the protection that's part of the problem. But Kamu, I have absorbed your points, and let's allow other listeners perhaps to reflect on that. It's exactly 9:30.
The Clement Manyathela Show, live from Africa's Travel Indaba with Durban Tourism on 702.
Welcome back. 011-883-0702. Thabo in for Clement. You're on 702. 24 minutes to 10 o'clock. Thanks for sticking around with us. If you are hearing the hustle, the bustle, the noise behind us, it's because we are at the Durban ICC, the Africa Travel Indaba, which is taking place today here in KwaZulu-Natal. It is a gathering of all players and stakeholders in the travel space, those who are travel agents, the airlines, everyone else that you can think of. So that noise comes from the people who are moving around and looking at exhibition stands, talking to each other, networking. So that's where we are coming to you from. But the show continues as usual, as is tradition of the show, that between 9 and 10 we have an open line. That open line is right now ready to go off, as it has been for some time, and you can feel free to call us on 011-883-0702, 011-883-0702, and your voice notes 072-702-1702.
I'm failing to understand the cure of HIV because they said they found it. So is it now a money game, or it was never, the cure was never found? Which one is it? Because now if there's a cure, then in the next 6 months or 8 months, we should have a 0% of AIDS, because the cure is there. So let corporate not play with us. Thank you. Keza from Pretoria.
Good morning, 702. Good morning, Thabo. Yeah, the issue of young girls and sugar daddies is because of poverty, Steve. I live in a location, it's a squalor. I can see people are hungry. We are hungry, my brother. People are hungry. People can do anything, even killing. You get me? Because of unemployment and poverty. People are hungry.
Yeah, my heart breaks, my brother. My heart breaks for what you just said, because I don't think many South Africans, and especially those who are well off, get to comprehend the level of poverty in this country and how it forces people to move towards a certain direction. I don't think a number of South Africans, especially the middle class, get to really understand how poverty is widespread, because we confine ourselves to coffee shops with laptops and to our friends who live in suburbia, and we are just in our neck. We don't understand. I don't think a lot of people understand that. And it's a big, big, big problem for me. that we don't get to comprehend that. It's a huge problem. And I suppose one way or the other, it is contributing to the scourge that we're speaking about. If you've just joined us, we were chatting earlier on that it appears as though HIV scourge is on the rise because no one is cautious anymore. No one is taking caution, and it's as if HIV never existed. There was a paper that was written from Wits University desks, and it was saying that the country, including the president, are not necessarily taking this seriously, and we are caught flat-footed on the scourge. It's on the rise. The phenomenon of sugar daddies is also something there. I was speaking to our producer Zintle earlier on prior to the show that I want to ask a question, and she said, no, don't ask it on air. and I do want to ask it. I do, because I think we are skating around the issue. And we are politically correct. And we don't want to face up issues as they come through. And the question that I wanted to ask, are you a sugar daddy? Do you compel the young ones not to use protection? No, call us. I mean, we want to hear from you. Do call us. We want to hear from you. Because, I mean, it's like we're speaking to ourselves and we are not making any impact. And people who are involved in these things are just chilling. They're not calling and they don't care. Call us. If you are, convince us otherwise. If you want to convince us otherwise, share your reality with us. Because it's like we are at a church and we're preaching to the converted. I think there are sugar daddies out there. They do have a perspective that they want to share. You can remain anonymous. We won't out you. Change your voice. Remain anonymous. Share that with us. Or are you a victim of sugar daddies? Share with us. Call us. Because this, according to research, especially among girls, constitutes about 40% of new infections. These are young girls between 14 and 29. So how is it that we just pretend that it's not happening? How is it that we pretend that things are not as dire as they are because we just want to be politically correct? So, and there's this belief that when, especially amongst various sugar daddies, that if you sleep with young girls within this age bracket that I have just mentioned, you can be HIV free if you are HIV infected. Sordid and crazy as it sounds, it's prevalent elsewhere. And Daily Maverick was just saying the other day that many researchers acknowledge that there are various vulnerabilities unique to this group of young individuals, and they are known as AGYW, adolescent girls and young women aged between 15 and 24. Sorry, I got the ages wrong there, between 15 and 24. And they said that it's equally concerning that it has been high correlation of this incidence rate with that of males aged 20 to 49 years old. 011-883-0702. Rakwena, you are calling us from Pretoria North. Hi, welcome.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Rakwena, I'm free. Good, sir. How are you? Thank you for asking.
Yeah, not bad. Look, this thing of HIV, the prevalence that is rising now, it goes to the lifestyles that we have adopted. That's how I see it. We have become too reckless, children are running all over the place. We have got bars, you've got taverns. And, people are taking advantage of that because at the same time, our laws are very weak when it comes to these things of HIV. I mean, if you look at these problems that we are having in Limpopo and these other provinces where underage girls in schools are said to be pregnant from the ages of 10, 13, 15, and nobody ever gets arrested. Yeah, that's very scary because at the end of the day, it tells you that pure recklessness of how our lifestyles are managed in this country here. So probably what we need to do is to look at revising our sexual, what you call these things, laws, sexual offenders laws. Like when we were told that there would be a register of sexual offenders, and that register was supposed to come out in February. Up to now, it is not there. So it is business as usual, and I think if people don't change the lifestyles and be conscientized to know the fears and the risks of acquiring HIV and so on, we are not going to go anywhere. So it's a combination of things here. Our lifestyle.
It is.
And the laws. I mean, for instance, I don't understand why one morning the law can just go and arrest all these the fathers of the babies, of the girls who have got babies at the age of 13, 15, because that is a very straightforward case. You DNA, you test the father of the baby, and you arrest the man. But that is not done. We have been complaining about this thing for years now, that underage children at schools. I mean, I was scared when I heard that a child of 10, 11 years can have a child. And it was discovered that some of them is this old men who have got the money because the families, because of their economic situation, they believe the money is better than reporting these guys to the law. So I think that's my contribution.
No, your contribution is valid, and I take it, Rakwena, because often, and I'm not saying in all instances, when a school girl, a student, a learner at school is pregnant, no one gets arrested. And I do admit, at times it could be their peers, it could be their classmates, but in many instances, as research has shown, you'd find that there's an older guy somewhere there, there's a teacher somewhere there, and the follow-ups are not being made as to why is this young lady pregnant? Who is responsible for this? And that person must be taken to task. It should be taken seriously, Rakwena, and we don't do that. And I'm wondering again, to what extent is the culture of silence in our own families, where these teachers come and bribe families and give them money and plead with them not to take this matter forward and silence them with money. So the young lady would have to be a victim of this transaction between the perpetrator and their family, just for money. But also, something has to be said, Rakwena, before you go, about adults as well, because it's not just among minors, amongst adults as well, who are not responsible, who don't take caution, who have just thrown caution to the wind and who are doing as they please. And they will burden the system at the end. And I'm not talking about rape incidents, because that's a different issue altogether. But there's something to be said about adults like us, Rakwena, who are not responsible at all. And who on call, by the way, when we're touching on these issues. But let's touch on Zuma. Let's touch on corruption in the country. And this I find very disturbing, when Rakwena.
Yeah, just to end here, you remember that we had 21 kids die in a tavern in Enyobeni there. Now, of school children, one of them was even 13 years. Now, if you look at the lifestyles, if you can go around the townships just over a weekend or any day, you will find taverns. I don't know why there are so many taverns in the townships and ship-ins and so on. And in white suburbs and other suburbs here, you don't find those things. And our people are just relaxed about that, and that's a very reckless way of living, because once these people are intoxicated with drugs and all these things, everything goes. Anything happens, and they don't care.
Sure.
And I'm talking about very young children, very, very young ones, who are in nightclubs. Everywhere you'll find them. You don't have to look for them. You just go there. You are going to find young girls sitting with old men who have got money, who buy them expensive cell phones and this and that, and then it becomes an attraction, and that it becomes a way of living amongst our young children, and that is very sad.
One of the terrible offspins of entrepreneurship culture. 011-883-0702.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
011-883-0702. I always know that we're touching at a nerve when the response isn't as overwhelming as it ordinarily is. And this brings me to a question about how we hold ourselves to account as individuals. It's often easy when we hold other people to account, when we hold politicians to account. But when it comes to our homes, when we speak about bullying, when we speak about kids who are unruly in our homes, when we're speaking about bad parenting, that is not going to receive a lot of response, is it? Because now it's about you. Yeah, it's about you. It's now putting a mirror in front of you, and you're not keen to discuss that, right? However, Hebatum, just touch on corruption in the country. All of us have got solutions, a box of solutions as to what should be done. Accountability rolls off our tongues. We are so articulate and eloquent on those issues. But when it hits home, it doesn't go that way. 011-883-0702. Nontu, you are in Randpark Ridge. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm free. How's it going? Hi, Nontu. I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So I also want to touch on the point of HIV scourge. So my take on this, okay, fine, the sugar daddies are also contributing on the scourge. But unfortunately, the kids, the Gen Zs, were born with HIV. Most of them were born with HIV. And you'd find that now they are 18 or 20s, and obviously they will have girlfriends and boyfriends, and they will be infecting each other.
Yeah. I don't think that it is necessarily off the mark, Nontu, because there are a plethora of issues that contribute to this problem. The only question, perhaps, that I have for you is that what do we do? What do we do? Because these young girls, these young boys, they come from our homes. Do we have these discussions at home? Do we hold our kids to account? Do we sit them down and show them and tell them about the realities of what they will be facing when they leave our protective homes?
Yeah, that's true. I think the scourge is obviously, because it's infecting young kids, it's on parents who are not educating these kids. And obviously our schools, that's where we're touching on government. We can do a lot as parents. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, Nontu. There's a bit of a gap between us talking here, but thanks very much. Really appreciate it. Nontu from Randpark Ridge. Voice notes on 072 702 1702. 011-883-0702. Yeah, I was just saying, after 10 o'clock, please tune in for that discussion around the travel industry in South Africa. That's one of the things that we'll be chatting about. If you've just joined us, welcome. You're on 702. It's 6 minutes to 10 o'clock. I'm Thabo in for Clement, and we will be touching on the travel industry because we're coming to you live from the Durban ICC and looking at this huge space of traveling that is contributing about 8.8% to the country's GDP. Quite amazing. And how do we grow it so that in 2030 we can be on the other side of those numbers? 011-883-0702.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
702 indeed. Voice notes, let's go straight to them.
Morning, Thabo. You're speaking to Nomsa here. You know, this thing of sugar daddies is not easy for us because those sugar daddies are married to us women. They go around sleeping with young women, and then they get sick, and then they come home, sleep with their partners, and then you are infected with something that you didn't even go around kissing. So this thing is a big problem because as a wife now you have to start taking pills. You see, I don't know how we're going to fight this, but this is just not right.
Morning, Thabo and the team. I hear you stressing that sugar daddies this, sugar daddies that. What about sugar mamas that wants us to sleep with them without using a condom? Are they not infected? Are they not spreading the HIV? Why has everything got to be about men doing this, men doing that? There are sugar mamas out there that go out to nice places to go and scout men like us to sleep with them for a certain fee, of course, because they're not finding joy at their homes, and we sleep with these people without condoms. So sugar mamas are not blamed. It's only sugar daddies that are blamed.
The men, the women, but it's the very same thing.
Yeah, listen, it's probably because I don't have any research in front of me that's indicating the role of sugar mamas in this instance. But I'm glad that you've put it on the table, and it is not necessarily only pointing at men. We don't have anything against men. It's exactly 10 o'clock on 702.